Hello, this is Andy over at Falco Canine Academy. I'm here in my new studio. What do you think? And you probably will not hear the barking that you used to hear when we used to have our show called Falco News Live, which I'm bringing back, by the way, but I'm putting together some new thoughts, some new parts to the show and that kind of stuff. So look forward to that. It'll be coming up here very, very soon. What I wanted to come on today is talk about a message that I got from a dog owner, and I'm going to go to it right now just so I make sure I get the question correct and make sure I don't get that wrong. And I encourage all of you that are watching to just anything that comes up in regard to your dog, feel free to leave a message. I'll do my best to give you an answer. I like to do these Facebook Lives because some of these questions that come in the private message, I think people are nervous to put them on the actual page itself or to ask it in a group because of whatever reason. And so, but by asking your question, there's probably other people that have the same issue or the same question in regard to their dog. We have a huge, long history of helping all those dogs that have been kicked out of other training, been kicked out of PetSmart, Petco, or Fred's dog training at the park and that kind of stuff, and it doesn't leave them very many options. So we've been proud to have been that option where people can bring their dog regardless if they've been kicked out of another dog training group or not. Whether we can, I prefer to bring them back into a group environment so we can get them through the issue, but if not, then we of course have private, which was part of the question. Somebody wanted, the person who asked the question wanted to know if we do offer private lessons, and yes, we still encourage again, people go to the private or go to the group training, but we have the private option available. And where was I going with that? Oh, so we even did a show, some of you know, we did a show, Cesar Milan called us and asked us to help him with a show called Love My Pitbull. That can be found. I have posted it before here in the group, but I was looking for it before I went on, and there's links that often get shared on YouTube and then later they get taken down, that kind of stuff, and I think that link may have been taken down. So if you look in the videos, I think that it's still an option here on the page. Let me look on the page. On the left-hand side, if you're really interested in seeing it under videos, if you scroll down far enough, oops, sorry, I can hear myself going live here. Hold on. Let me mute that. So the good news is actually working. So somewhere in the videos, you may be able to find that link that takes you to Love My Pitbull. It's a show that we did with Cesar Milan. It's a really good show. I laugh is because some of the stuff I brought to their attention, they took it as their own, and Cesar was the one who responded with the stuff that I brought up. And so that's the way it works on TV, right? And so I had these great things that I was saying on camera that got deleted, and then he ended up talking about them later. And that's good. As long as the information gets out, that's the most important thing. Doesn't matter who gets credit. But I just laugh because I think every time I watch, I go, oh man, I told him about that. I wish he would have kept my stuff in just because it adds to the credibility to Falco Canine Academy. It adds to our authority, which is important. It's not about who's better, who's not. It's just that when you hear it coming from somebody, it gives that person the authority and gives them the credibility that you want to have in your dog trainer. So let's get to this question, and I'm sure there's going to be other stuff that you're going to want to, that I'm going to end up bringing up because of this discussion. But the question is, your company was recommended by a friend for obedience training. I have a few questions. We rescued a Pitbull Mastiff mix 2 years ago as a puppy. So the dog is right around 2 years old. He's a great people dog, but after we got him fixed, he's become dog aggressive. Is this something that is correctable by training? He's so big that I'm concerned he is going to go after another dog and I won't be able to stop him. Yes, that when you have a pit bull mastiff sized dog, that should be one of your concerns for sure. And so let's tackle. I want to tackle the neutering of dogs. Now, the neutering of dogs is, I think, really, really important. We just have way overpopulation, right? We have too many shelters, too many rescues going on right now. We need to bring that population down just a bit. And so neutering a dog is important for that one issue by itself. But it also, cancer is the leading cause of death in dogs. We think often it's because of the food, which is probably true. The food has gotten better, though. The food used to be really, really bad. Before we got really into, I think canine caviar would, here in California, I used to deliver that food and was really a big fan of it. It really helped my dog with hot spots and that kind of stuff. And that's when I realized that the ingredients in the food, because we were just buying stuff like, what was the one with the wagon, the dog would chase the wagon through the kitchen, chuck wagon. We were feeding those little patties that were in those little hard plastic. You open that back, it'd make that sound, that crunching sound from the type of plastic they use for the plastic bag, and crumble it into their bowl. Well, it was probably mostly food coloring and mostly crap that I can't even remember what even the ingredients were. It would even have, I think I remember that it would even turn your fingers red if you spent too much time crumbling it in your hands. And so, hey PJ, glad to see you on this broadcast, giving the thumbs up. And so I remember that food. And so there's no doubt that during those years, the 70s, in the 80s, feeding crap to our dogs, that the rise in cancer was mostly caused from the lack of nutrition and the crap and the chemicals that were put in that dog food. A lot of it was rendered meat, which included all the cleaning fluids and things I used to clean the places where they would butcher the animals and sweep it up into a big pile and then grind it down and turn it into dog food, which was the lips and the toes and the ears of the dogs, or of the animals that probably were not clean from the flies around them. And I'm grossing you out, but just imagine what we were feeding our dogs back then. Now, I'm disparaging chuck wagons. I don't even know if they're in business anymore. But since then, we've come up with some really good dog food solutions and some holistic food and that kind of stuff. So that is one issue. And now I'm talking about cancer. So now what does that have to do with neutering? Well, neutering is a really good way, obviously, to combat testicular cancer, which also is very common in dogs. And it's one less thing you have to worry about. Now, is it the cure-all for cancer for dogs? No. It's much like what's going on in this world right now. People are taking things to extremes, right? I'm saying that getting your dog neutered, it has two benefits. One, to the world. It allows us to keep the population under control, or get it there. It's not there now, but get it there eventually. And also helps in regard to the testicular cancer issue, and just takes that out of the mix, right? If they don't have the testicles, then it's very hard to get testicular cancer, isn't it? So that is another good reason. Now, when I select dogs for police work, for detection work and that kind of stuff, I select the dog based on what they have intact at that time. So you may get a cross message from me if you are get one of our working dogs, where I say, I'm neutering the dog is not what I recommend, because I tested the dog based on what it has on board at the time that I'm testing the dog. I don't want to change anything in these dogs if I can help it, because I have seen over the years, on occasion, not always. Now, again, I don't want everybody to go, I neutered my dog and nothing happened, or I neutered my dog and everything happened. All right, it's just one of those things, right? I've seen it, unfortunately, upon neutering a dog, where the traits that I selected them for, detection work or police work, where we train them how to bite and chase down bad guys, hunt for them in buildings, that kind of stuff, where neutering has changed that, even in female dogs, in regard to fixing female dogs. And so we can see, we do see that this will create a difference in the dog's personality. Does it cause aggression? It can, just like it can cause laziness, just like it often causes dogs to gain weight, because their metabolism changes, and some dogs gain weight after being neutered. So there's things that happen in regard to neutering that it's anybody's guess. You can have a dog you neutered or spayed, and nothing happens, right? The dog remains exactly the same as it was before the operation and after. You have other dogs that all of a sudden now are aloof and kind of hang in the corner and hide underneath tables. We had a bomb dog that may have been one of the best bomb dogs when we selected it after neutering. It might have been spayed. I can't remember if it was male or female. I think it was a male. It got neutered, and everything changed. The dog stopped searching. The dog was afraid of its own shadow. It hid in the corner underneath tables. And I'm going to talk about what else can be associated with neutering in just a minute. But the neutering was one of those things that we could look at and say, before that happened, then we had this other thing began to happen, some behavioral problems, aggression being one of those things. Hold on, you're going to hear some noise again. I just want to see if there's anybody. I see that we have quite a few people viewing already. Refreshing the page here. And so the aspect of neutering can cause some of these things to happen. Now, also, along with the neutering, dogs are very keen to what is happening to them and can connect that very first experience, if it is one of the first experiences that they have in a veterinarian's office or with a man or with even a woman, that they were taken to this place. Right? Up until that point, they were in a house where everything was just fantastic, right? They're loved, they're fed, they're taken care of, they're not hurt, they're not scared. And then you take the dog to the veterinarian office, and now they get a shot. They're held and pinned down to a stainless steel table. They're taken into another room. Sometimes they're still conscious, and they look around and see what's going on. These things can happen to people too. And the dog now associates certain things with being afraid, and dogs can get damage is a strong word. Dogs can be affected negatively by those things, and will have an association with them for a very, very long time. Back to my police dog. When I was a police officer with my canine, one of the things that we would do on a regular basis is we'd have the dog jump chain link fences. And at the training facility that I was at the time, they had the chain link fence configuration. It was just like a little square, but it was about 3 feet off the ground. The dog would have to jump over it. Some dogs would try to go around it, but we'd hold the dogs on a leash and get them to go over it. So my dog goes to go over it. As he goes over, it becomes unstable. Somehow one of his toenails gets stuck in the chain link fence in the cross and gets stuck in there somewhere. And the dog can't get it out. The thing falls. He can't get his toe out. He's screaming because it hurts so bad. We get it off of him. And then from that point on, for the rest of his career, if we ever came up to a chain link fence, he hated it. He would stop. He would look around like he wanted to go somewhere else. And it reminds me of another story I'm going to do probably later on today that has to do with that movie when they're trying to get the German Shepherd into the water. And so it's that kind of the same experience. Like now the dog sees the chain link fence and the dog's like, I don't want to go over the chain link fence. I tell the dog, hup, he go, Rawr, and he almost close his eyes and jump and pray that his toenail wouldn't get caught. And he would jump twice as high to make sure that his paws would not get stuck. So that negative experience was focused on chain link fence. Now he could have focused on that when it could have been focused just on jumping, but I didn't see it so much on jumping anything that was solid, like a wall as opposed to a chain link fence. He would still jump over that. I saw a little bit of anxiety, so there was some attachment. Now that I'm looking back on things, but not quite the same when you see the chain link fence. So it's the dog's. It's up to the dog by whatever reason or for whatever reason, how he makes that connection. So the dog can make a connection with the veterinarian that it's a male of a certain age, that he was frightened at that moment that he was getting a shot, placed on a stainless steel or aluminum, I think it's stainless steel, table in this room and surrounded and pinned down as he got the shot, all that kind of stuff. And then the last thing he sees before he goes under is this man, and now the dog has an association with older man or younger man or a certain nationality of man. Yes, it's true, that they don't like that anymore. So when they on their walks, now the dog growls when he sees a man that looks very similar to the veterinarian. So dogs make these connections with things based on negative things that happen and positive things that happen. So if it was a good thing, the dog would see, oh, maybe I'm going to have a repeat of that fantastic thing that happened to me at that place. And so it depends. So now let's go back to neutering. So dog gets neutered, dog hears a bunch of barking, maybe another dog was passing by at the time, and the dog somehow associates, hey, when I see these other dogs, I'm surrounded by other dogs and hear a lot of barking, I get really anxious and upset, and now the anxiety attaches itself to some situation, and then it's then attached to aggression, and so another dog gets put in a situation where there's other dogs around. He immediately thinks back to when he had that memory of being very scared, in the veterinarian's office when he was surrounded by other dogs. One of the local veterinarians, they have this huge open area where it's kind of like an emergency room, like a MASH emergency room, where they can have a dog getting his teeth cleaned on one table, a dog having an operation on another table, a dog getting splinted on another table, a dog getting a blood test on another table, all around. And so you can imagine what the dogs are kind of looking around and associating to their fear in a situation like that. Am I saying it's bad? No, it's just these are some of the things that happen. Okay. Whew. Wow, I got excited there. Let me have another drink. So, to answer the first part of the question about the neutering causing aggression, it's possible that it was simply just the dog got neutered, and because of a chemistry change in the dog, now we have more aggression. It could have been the age, too. It has nothing maybe to do with the neutering, that this pit bull mastiff mix prior to being neutered was in its young, the early, the tweens, right? Not quite a teenager, but still a child in many ways, and kind of like didn't mind other dogs. But as we all know, when teenagers go through a specific age, somewhere between around 15 or so and around 20, then their testosterone kicks in and they get a little bit more like a bravado. I've noticed my son going through a little bravado right now. He's 10. I can already see him kind of posturing and feeling that, he wants to be positive about himself and, walk around with a little bit of, a power, in his walk to show people that he's smart and agile and strong, right? So you can see that changing. It could have been coincidental that at the time of neutering, he was also going through that testosterone change. That's the best way for me to put it. And so now you see that the dog is aggressive now, and it has nothing to do with neutering. It has something more to do with the dog coming of age and being a dog that now wants to make sure that everybody in his environment knows that he's a protector, that he's a guarder, that he's strong, and doesn't want to be messed with. All right, so it could be that. Now, dogs become aggressive for a lot of different reasons. Aggression is that thing I just talked about wanting to be a protector, wanting to be a guard, wants to guard stuff. It feels that all this stuff is mine. Guarding is inanimate objects. Protection is the people in the dog's packs, right? The dog will protect the people and other dogs in regard to protection. Guarding is guarding a bull, land, a ball, something that it perceives that it owns, and then they will begin to guard it. The house and the car. All right. And then there's rank, where the dog is pulling rank, and that's problematic because the dog can become aggressive towards the family, and we don't want to see that. And you got your pure aggression. You got all these kinds of aggression. So, why is that important for this person, for me to answer this question with all of that extra information that they really didn't ask for? It's because it's really important to know, as far as we can, as close as we can come, to figuring out why the dog is aggressive. What is causing this aggression? Because in most cases, I would say in most of the cases that I brought up, other than rank, that it can be either fixed or made less through training with an experienced trainer that knows how to deal with aggression. It can often be made worse with training. So you make sure you go to the right trainer. You go to the wrong trainer. I've seen that we've gotten dogs with us that the dog was not aggressive whatsoever, but after going to training, the dog became aggressive. It's because the trainer had associated some fear with another dog possibly, and now that's what caused the dog to be fearful of other dogs. It may have even happened to us once in a while where we weren't told of something that maybe have happened. That happens all the time. People will ask people, well, tell us about your dog and what's going on with your dog. And they'll leave something out, right? They won't tell us that the dog has shown some aggression or shown some issue that it has with certain breeds and that kind of stuff. And by not knowing, we can put the dog into a situation and not be aware of it and then make a problem worse until we can identify it. So when we ask people about their dog, we want them to be as honest as they possibly can, because if they're not, that can happen. We can put the dog in a situation that it would have been better if we didn't. And so that can happen. As careful as we are, that still can happen on occasion. Any trainer that doesn't tell you that and isn't honest enough to tell you that is not a trainer that you want to be with. All right, so there's lots of variables in environments, environmental issues and other people, that kind of stuff. All right, let's get back to the point. So identifying why this dog is being aggressive is really important, and I would not recommend a private for this dog. I would recommend group training, and that's always the one thing that people don't want, right? People go, my dog gets aggressive around other dogs. So what do? They want a trainer that only comes with them where there's no other dogs. Well, it's hard to train a problem when we don't put the dog in the situation where we have the problem, right? So group training is the best. If we do a private, then we try to do our best to go and train around a dog park or something like that to make sure and put that dog in the situation. So what I recommend first is that we get the dog evaluated. and we do that. Derek or Gina can evaluate you and the dog together, because quite often we see some issues that come up not just because of the dog, because we will take the dog separate from the human being that it lives with to see what the dog's personality is like away from the human being, because sometimes it changes, sometimes it improves, sometimes it actually gets worse. So we want to know that, right? And so then we have the person with the dog, and we put them through a few different things, minor things, not that big of a deal, just walk around with the dog or ask the dog to sit or something like that. And so we'll evaluate the situation with the dog. So I recommend an evaluation. We need to try to do our best to find out what is causing the aggression, and if it's true aggression, or if it's fear, or if it's a trained behavior. Quite often we can train a dog to become aggression through things that we do, because one of my favorite stories to tell is my dad. Every dog that we had, just was nasty aggressive at the front door and hated our neighbors. And until I really began to look back, I used to remember my dad saying, and I'm going to forgive me, but my dad was kind of racist. He was Hispanic, but he was really racist and didn't like Mexicans. And so, or Hawaiians, or Russians, or Polish people. He didn't like it. It was well-rounded. He was like the Archie Bunker, the Hispanic Mexican Archie Bunker that didn't like Mexicans or Hispanics. And so, but everybody that came, he gave him a name. We'll just use the Hawaiians, because that's where our neighbors were Hawaiian. And he'd go, "Where's the Hawaiians? Get the Hawaiians!" And he would do that and build this energy in the dog through his verbiage, and then direct it towards the neighbors. So then when the dog eventually at some point would make that connection, anytime he saw the neighbors, he would go after them, right? So that you can train aggression. One of them was a black poodle, one was a black cocker spaniel, and I don't think he ever did it to the basset hounds. The basset hounds were too really hard to train towards aggression. They would bark, but they wouldn't get really aggressive. But I remember that he trained in aggression, police work is separate. When we're talking about teaching dogs to bite, I know some of you may be thinking, well, you train police dogs to bite. It's different. And so he was teaching these dogs to be aggressive and fearful of the neighbors. All right. And you can train that. We can do it on purpose, like my dad did, or we can do it subconsciously by the way that we pull back on a leash when we see somebody, or the way that our gait changes when we're walking, or the way that we speak in our voice and show the dog that we are afraid, thereby making the dog afraid and then creating aggression. So we could have done that too. So it's our job with this dog, this pit bull mastiff mix, to find out, is it genetic? Much harder to train out of a dog or fix or help a person with a dog that it's genetic, but we can do it, but it's way more difficult. You can manage it. Is it a learned behavior? Learned behavior are things that happen regardless of the human being and who they're with, like knocking over the trash can to find tasty treats. The first time the dog does that, he's just chasing the smell, does not realize he can knock it over and get to the treats. Well, that's a learned behavior. The dog learned it on its own. Shaking the gate of the pool for Labrador retrievers to go swimming in the pool, they just keep hitting it, and then they realize that at some point, like the fourth time they hit it, it actually opened up, and now you've trained, the dog is self-trained and learned the behavior of shaking the gate until it gets open. That's learned behavior. The dog does it on its own, and sometimes by accident. And then a trained behavior is something that we train either purposefully or by accident and not knowing any better. So identifying which one of those it is will help us understand how quickly we can fix it, and if there needs to be some specialized training. Much of what we've done has been able to be fixed or helped in the group environments training. That is probably the best place for most dogs, is you got them around people, you get them around other dogs. We put them in situations to try to bring out that behavior that we don't want so that we can take it out, and we can only do that by seeing it and making sure that it happens. And so we get the evaluation to kind of identify any major problems and just make sure that we're taking the right steps and putting them in group and training. 9 times out of 10, group training is the place that you need to be. Once you get into group training, then by having the evaluation, we have extra information that can help you along the process, because our group training isn't just one training for everybody. It's individual training in a group environment, right? And so we identify problems with each one of the person and get that dog the help that it needs. Now, one more, you think, how you could talk a long time on just this really tiny subject, because there's a lot to it. All right, so let me now discuss whether this problem can be fixed. We've had for years, everybody wants a guarantee, right? You want to guarantee that the car will last, 10 years and not break down. We want to guarantee that the food is going to taste good when we order it to the restaurant. We want to guarantee for all kinds of stuff. Can we guarantee that a dog going through the training, our training in particular, will be fixed after the training. Now, here is a huge thing that I've had to deal with for years, and that is no. I cannot guarantee that. I cannot guarantee anything in regard to dog training. I can only guarantee, and I've done this forever, I will guarantee you that our trainers, that our training system, if followed, has made the difference in many, many thousands of dogs over the years. Police dogs, detection dogs, pet dogs, service dogs, therapy dogs. Our training has had I would say, an abnormal, in the dog industry, positive effect on most of the people that have come to us. For those people that have followed direction and followed through. So I can only guarantee that we will give you information that has worked for years, going on almost 30 years, that we will give you that information. And we will be there for you all along the way, as long as you are interested and are participant and are present during our training. I promise you that Gina and Derek especially are there with the information. Even if they don't know, they'll come to me and ask, and then we'll go over it. And if I don't know, I'll find somebody that may know. And if we don't know, we will try to figure it out and problem solve the best that we can, which is very rare that we haven't had that experience before, or I can't find somebody that has. All right, so that I can guarantee, that you will get the information that you need. What I can't guarantee is that you will do the work. Right? There are some dogs that are unfortunately in the hands of the wrong people. People that may, God bless them, are maybe too busy. Right? They have business to run. They have 5 children. They have other things that are just happening. Maybe a foreclosure, or maybe taxes, or maybe somebody in the family's sick. Right? They have all this stuff, and then decide, well, I'm going to bring this dog in because dogs, in many cases, can reduce blood pressure, can make a home happier by having the right dog in that home. But unfortunately, get this dog that has aggression, and they're going, oh, I got to deal with this thing, and it's going to take a little bit of extra work. And now we have to make sure and monitor things the dogs are doing. Now, this dog added to an environment where you got a whole bunch of other stuff is unfortunately in the wrong situation. It's no fault of the human beings. It's just that the human beings in this dog's life don't have the time or the energy to deal with the special needs of that dog. In that case, the dog should be in the hands of somebody who wants to and has the opportunity and has the time and the energy to help that dog through that situation. I've seen some dogs that were, I'm going to go to a dog by the name of Peanut, which I talk about quite often. It was a pit bull, and came along and landed in the right house at the right time. These people, these folks with Peanut are fantastic. Their life was dedicated to taking the super, super aggressive dog. In any other hands, the dog would have been euthanized. In any other house, the dog would have been euthanized because he was so strongly aggressive. But these folks, these people, Michelle and her husband, I'm sorry, I can't remember her husband. I was avoiding saying Michelle's name because I can't remember her husband's name. Michelle just was dedicated to this dog. And she still worked. She still had a life and that kind of stuff. But her life became this dog's. This dog's situation became a very much a part of her life. Eventually, she was able to take this dog that was so darned aggressive. I'm telling you, she actually literally had to be on the other part of the park that we were training this group training in, and had to be kind of separate from everybody, and we had to kind of ease her into the group, if I'm remembering correctly, and then would get the dog into the mix, and then the dog eventually would do the figure eights around the other dogs. The dog eventually would become a champion dock diving dog, where it would jump into the water off leash, come out of the water off leash, find its way around a bunch of other dogs, and find Michelle and sit right in front of her. No problems whatsoever. That dog, super aggressive dogs that otherwise would have been euthanized, found itself in the right situation because that person was dedicated. So my other answer to the person who asked the question, I'm not bringing their name because I'm not sure if they want to be identified, is that in many, many cases, other than a genetic or a brain injury, aggression can be managed. Sometimes it can be fixed. It's a hard one to say because it doesn't have, it's always there. I always tell people the aggression's always going to be there. You just have to make sure the dog keeps control of it. It's like an alcoholic. Always going to be an alcoholic, but you just don't have this dog going to a bar where it's going to find a glass full of aggression, right? And so you want to keep that dog in a situation where it cannot be forced to control itself, right? And so in the right hands, this dog, if you are that person, if you are that family, can make a difference in this dog's life and really help it through its aggression. And at some point, it's possible, like Peanut, where you can have a dog that was so aggressive that it would have been euthanized, is now in a situation where it can be around other dogs and other people, monitored, and not have any errors, right? And the dog gets along, the dog walks past other dogs. The dog never really played with other dogs, right? As far as I know, there may have been a dog that this dog could have played with, but I don't recall. But I know for sure when I was at Pet Expo, when it was competing in the dock jumping competition, the day that I saw that dog jump into the water, I wasn't even, the dog jumped far, right? That was fantastic. But that was not as amazing to me as when that dog came out of the pool, walked down those stairs, and walked past at least 4 dogs that I know of the same sex, male dogs, female dogs, and female dogs. They often don't get along. Walked around the male dogs, found its way past people, and came to Michelle, and she praised the dog and loved that dog so much. That dog in the right situation, the aggression was under control and was not an issue. So I hope our walk around this park, this beautiful park that I'm in right here, from all these different aspects of aggression, right? So there's not just one simple answer. The dog was neuterized. The dog was notarized. We signed it, put our thumbprint on there. The dog was neutered at around 2 years of age. Could it be neutering? Maybe. Could have been that was at the moment that it was also going through the change from a young teen or tween to a teenager to a man, and now that is actually the cause of the aggression. Is it maybe that it was it's genetic and it just didn't show up until the dog became of age where it could actually protect itself? Or is there something that happened in this dog's life that it connected its fear to, and it is associated with other dogs? Quite often that's the easier one to fix. If we can change the association that other dogs are a pleasure to be with and there's nothing to fear, you're almost on your way to fixing a problem that you had previously, because it's not it's truly doesn't hate other dogs. It just gained this fear from a past experience with other dogs, and now that's why you see the aggression. So there's the answer to the question. Let's get that dog evaluated, see if we can identify some of the issues that may be present that you can see right off the bat. And then most likely we'll get that dog into group training, get around some other dogs and other people, and begin watching what it is that you're doing with the leash to maybe set the dog off or tell the dog that you're fearful, or maybe there's something in your voice. Sometimes you see it with one member of the family and not the other. Sometimes we often see it with the woman in the family and not the man. There's reasons behind that, which I'll tackle another time because I've gone on long enough. Is it only when the children are present? Is it only when another dog is present? Is it only when you go by a certain house where they know that there's something there, another dog that they don't like? There's all these factors that we're going to address in the group training. The great thing about dog training, and which made it so fun for me for over years, is that every situation can be slightly different than the next. Now, there's often commonalities, right? But you can see all the points that I brought up is that there's lots of variables, and not all of them are present all at the same time, and sometimes they are all present. It's everything, right? It's the entire world. And so there you go. All right. So up above here on the description, you see a link there. That will take you to our store where we have online training videos. Some of them are free. Some are very low priced. I think the one that you might want to take a look at is the dog park etiquette, because there is some good training. And you don't have to go in the dog park to get your worth out of that training, because it talks about there's so much stuff that needs to happen before even getting into the dog park, right? And some of this you can happen around the dog park before you even decide to go in. I'm very cautious around dog parks. I'm not the biggest fan of dog parks, but I'm not saying you shouldn't go ever either. If you use a dog park correctly and you train your dog well, you will have dog park etiquette down with your dog. And regardless of who's in there, you'll end up having the better experience out of being in that dog park than anybody else. All right, let's look down here and see. I see that Jennifer Lancy, who I see is liking all those journals. I think she has her button on the like button, which is cool. Her hand on the like button. And so thank you, Jennifer, for liking all of our journals. Make sure and check out our journals. I'm going to come up. I think I have 2 more I have to do today. I'll have those journals up, different breeds of dogs. I'm going to try to get through 30 or so, maybe 40 of the journals of different breeds and get those up for everybody. So everybody that has a dog of a certain breed has their own journal. Journaling is fantastic. I recommend it to so many people. Our detection dog handlers, our police dog handlers, pet dog handlers, is journaling your experiences of the day with your dog. It becomes a really good practice. Journaling is great for everything else. If you own your business, journaling is fantastic. If you're getting ready to get married, journaling the steps into getting married. If you have a child, journaling your child's life as you're going through from prior to birth to after the child has been born. The child has been born. Journaling is fantastic. It's a great habit to get into. It's fun. It's fun to go back later on and see the stuff you've written. I love seeing some of my past notes. Funny enough, I journal for my business and journal for my dog training experience over the years, and that has been very valuable. I've been wanting to do it with my kids, but my ex-wife has done a great job of doing that and has kept track of all the kids' needs and what they've done and gone to the hospitals and doctors and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool to go back and just remember, because so much you forget. Right? If you don't, and then if you write it down, you remember it. And so then after you've written it down, you almost don't need to go back to the journal. But the journal is great to go back and look at some of the stuff that you remember being your fears, because I have a couple entries there that if you follow it, it'll be what are some of your goals and what are your biggest fears for your dog. And then you find out later on, 2 or 3 years down the road, you go back to your journal and go, oh man, I completely forgot that I was afraid my dog would blah, 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 or whatever. So check out those journals, get your breed. If you have friends or family that have a certain breed that I've already put up there, just go ahead and purchase it for them and get it in there. It's very cheap, $10.99 I think it is. And I put some questions in the front, 20 pages or so, 15 pages, something like that, to help you get started. And then the rest is blank pages that you can journal all to your heart's content about what's going on with your dog. Also, go on the link and go ahead and look at the training programs that we have online, and call our office so we can set you up for an evaluation if this is your dog I'm talking about, or if you know somebody that has a dog that has issues. All right, Rachel Rodriguez, Contreras and PJ is on. It says we have 44 people on right now. You may not see that, but it says on my end 44 people are watching. So the other 40, what was it, 41? The other 41 people that I don't know who you are, thank you for watching. I hope you got out of this what I hope you got out of it. I hope it helped even those of you that maybe had just one issue you were concerned about or thinking about. That would be great. I would love your comments. Please put your comments in here, even in the replay, to let me know what you're think. Even if you disagree with anything that I said, I want to know what it is you disagree with. And I am not thin-skinned. Go ahead and let me know. If you don't like my background, I love where I'm at right now. I think it looks beautiful. And so let me just check and see one more time to see what we got going on. I'm just going to refresh. Every so often you have to refresh and see who's on. I'm using a program called Mimo Live, which allows me to go on Facebook Live and do these great backgrounds and that kind of stuff. The only problem is I can't see the comments and see who's on when I'm in that other program. 314 people reached. Well, okay. 58 people watching. Awesome. All right. So that is it. In the future, once I get it back online again, I'll have a link that will be in the description that you can click on and actually join me on camera and join me with your microphone and camera that you have on your phone or your computer. And you can come on live and ask me questions while we're live. I just can't do it now because the service that I use to do that is not available because of some other technical issue that it's way too hard to explain. But an update is not updating. It's supposed to update, but it's not. So in the future, as you see these shows coming back live, remember we're going to bring back a little bit of dog news, but we're going to call it something else and have some more features on and that kind of stuff. So look forward to that. I hope this was helpful. Thank all of you who joined, all 58 people who are on at this moment watching this video. Make sure and share and like and comment. Please comment. Give me your comments. Tell me what you think, and share with friends or family that have dogs, because I'm hoping that something that we have to say in regard to nutrition, training, care, all those things will be relevant. Now, I'm going to be, again, at the beginning I mentioned that I'm going to be reviewing the footage of the dog that was being put in the water, or they were attempting to put it in the water in regard to a dog's, what's it called again? A dog's life, a dog's promise, a promised dog, something like that. Whatever dog movie is coming out, there was a whole uproar about this whole thing. And I have a couple points that I want to make about that. And whether you're a dog lover or you think it was fantastic what they did or horrible what they did and you want everybody to die, whatever that is, you should watch because I'm going to bring up some other stuff that I think is important to know about stuff like that and when it happens and what my take on that particular video is. And I know I'm taking a chance because people have their opinions. Just watch the news. I have my opinions about that, and so I know that people can get very strong and very, their heart, is hurt, and they have some strong feelings. So hopefully join me. I'm planning on doing it around 3 or 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So if you can't be there live, hopefully I'll have the other problem fixed, and I'll be able to get some people on camera. But it's just a software problem that is. I had to write support, and I think their support is probably in India or somewhere over there, and so there's a chance that I can't get it fixed by this afternoon, but I'm waiting to see, and we'll watch that video and together, and I'll break it down and give you some of my thoughts on some of my experience and things that I know to be true, and there we go. All right, everybody, thank you for watching, and I will see you at around 3 or 4ish if you're going to watch. All right, take care. I got to find my stream here. All right, talk to you later. Bye.